Welcome to the Diverse Minds podcast, where we give you the tips, tools, and techniques you need to be a mentally healthy and inclusive leader. Each week, you'll hear about a variety of topics linked to mental health, well-being, and diversity that will enhance both your professional practice and personal well-being. Welcome to the 227th episode of the award-winning Diverse Minds podcast, and welcome to the first episode of 2024. We're kicking off the year with a series on the heart and mind connection. And on today's episode, I'm going to be talking about what a heart-mind connection is. And talking about something from the heart, have you watched my TedX talk about the connection between culture, race, and mental health? It's something you can watch in your break, as it's just 12 minutes long, and the link is in the show notes, and I'll also give it to you here. It is bit.ly/TEDX Wolves, WOLVESLO. I really hope you enjoy it because it was a labor of love. And if you do, please leave a positive comment on YouTube, share, and like. Also, don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, the handle at Diverse Minds UK. So instead of talking about New Year's resolutions, what needs to change, I always like to take a holistic approach and to think about how to make this time of year easier. If you're interested in the Wellbeing 365 approach, then check out episode 18, Beyond New Year's Resolution. But thinking about this topic around what is the heart and mind connection, there's a long history among people of thinking of the body and the brain in particular and mind as two separate entities, so head and heart. But as science continues to find increasing levels of connection between physical and mental health, and indeed I had a whole series on physicality, physical health and mental health, so do check that out, including the relationship between mental health and your actual physical beating heart. Recent research has found that the relationship is reciprocal, meaning that mental health conditions or mental ill health can, of course, put you at higher risk of heart disease. And having heart disease, in particular, people who've had bypasses, one of the side effects is experiencing quite severe depression. But heart disease, if it carries on, can put you at a great risk of mental health conditions, challenges, mental ill health. So the connection between heart and mind is a two-way street because the heart sends information to the brain and the brain sends information to the heart, but like an emotional superhighway. The heart's electromagnetic field also affects the limbic system, which is responsible for emotions. So this is often why we might feel emotions in our heart. And if we take a step back to really sense what's going on, different times of the day, we might, people say things like their phrases, and you see it in literature as well, heart swelling, heart beating really fast, heartburn, which is a condition, but you can also feel that sensation. So we feel those emotions in our hearts as well as our minds. And the heart is a very sophisticated information center encoding and processing the emotional sensations that we feel. The heart-mind connection in Chinese medicine views that of all the organs, the mind is most closely related to the heart, which is said to be the resident of the mind. So often in modern life, particularly in the global north, culture is it's head or heart, but the two are interlinked. And I think there does seem to be some kind of demarcation. And often what happens is there's a disconnection in terms of decisions in work and life. It's got to be rational, use your mind, it's got to be rational. But even when we make rational decisions, or what we perceive to be rational decisions, there will be sensations in our body. And based on research and a presentation, and I've included the YouTube link in the show notes because it's definitely worth a watch, by Kapiopi Megari at City College, University of Europe campus, which is based in Greece. In this presentation, I think it's really helpful. I just have picked out some key things, but one of the things is the heart communicates to the brain in 4 ways. So firstly, neurologically, through transmissions of nerve impulses. Secondly, biochemically, which is neurotransmitters and hormones. Thirdly, biophysically, through pressure waves. And fourthly, energetically, through electromagnetic field interactions. So I didn't know that. There were the 4 different ways. I would have thought, right, neurotransmitters or nerve impulses, but not the 4 different ways. So that was really interesting. And that the fact is that the cardiovascular system is regulated by the autonomous nervous system, which of course includes the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems, the emotions and feelings. And we all know that we feel stressful situations physically, we then have to process them mentally. And recovery from surgery or setbacks in physical health are faster when our emotions and our mental well-being is good as it can be. Simplistically put, there is an emotional highway between our hearts and our minds. And some research talks about the vagus nerve as well as the longest nerve going from the base of the spine right into the stomach. The connection is undeniable, but can be difficult to measure perfectly in scientific studies. And the presentation I mentioned, she does talk about this. So I really hope you're enjoying the content of my podcast. And if you want to keep up to date, then why not join my newsletter? When you join my mailing list, you'll receive a free copy of my white paper on inclusive language and mental health at work. And that link is bit.ly/ILMHCK. So if you listened to the last episode, my roundup of the year of 2023, you'll remember that I talked about Tara Brach and her book, Radical Acceptance. So Tara Brach is a well-known meditation teacher, Buddhist, psychologist, and she advocates for cultivating a mindful and compassionate connection with the heart as a means of healing and transformation. And she's done many years of study. She's also a therapist. And she talks about the fact that in order to heal, we need to bring what's called mindful awareness into our heart space. And interestingly, in a lot of Buddhist teachings and also yogic teachings, your energetic heart is in the middle of your chest versus your biological heart, which is slightly to the left. And she also highlights the wisdom that we can access from our heart if we give ourselves time and space to do that, and connecting with our own inner resources of love, compassion, and resilience. And how, if we do that, we can create a much better heart-centered approach to life, greater emotional awareness, healing, connection, and well-being. And so how can we do this? So there's a lot of, I'm not an expert on this, but it's something that I've found very fascinating around heart-focused breathing. There are things called heart coherence exercises that can help us increase our listening to our heart. And that is linked with reduced stress, increased emotional resilience, and improved overall well-being. So I think it's really about how do we listen to the sensations in our body and what does our body telling us, to tune into the way in which our heart is beating, to realize that we cannot be all rational beings because we're not robots. And in fact, there's some very interesting discussions about rationality and as humans, because we are animals, that everything is guided by kind of emotions, decisions that we might think are really rational. So it is about feeling those sensations, breathing into them, writing down and reflecting how they make us feel, and deciding what we may like to do. And it's also making sure we have the time for that, whether it's 5 minutes, instead of pushing down those sensations and pretending they're not there. So in essence, what is the heart and mind connection? It's a two-way street, 4 modes of communication, as I talked about. There's the neurological, the biochemical, the biophysical, and the energetic, as shown by science. And do check out that presentation I mentioned. The heart and mind work together. They are not separate. It's vital to feel into your body and listen to understand yourself and make better decisions. It takes some time, but it's worth it. And also, it's not about giving up everything to do this, but it's about integrating into your day. So in this series, we're going to be looking at ways to align both your heart and mind for better well-being, connections, decisions, things that you want to go forward and do. And I really hope that 2024, you'll work with me. You can work with me for your training and facilitation needs as a coach, or invite me to speak. And if you've enjoyed this episode, why not leave me a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast from. And don't forget, you can leave me an anonymous voice note on SpeakPipe and let me know if there's anything I've spoken about resonates with you. And that's speakpipe.com/diverse minds. And I've included some resources for you there. And indeed, also do check out episode 125 with the brilliant Karen Leibenguth, talking about doing less and being more, connection with physicality, nature, and mental well-being. So until next week, where we're going to have a guest talking about making career decisions using a heart and mind approach, we'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Diverse Minds podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcasts from. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Tune into next week's episode of the podcast, where I'll bring you more insights on mental health and inclusion. Bye for now.